Imagine this. Your wife disappears on Christmas Eve. She's 8 months pregnant. The entire country begins searching for her. But while people are organizing search parties and hoping she's safe, her husband is secretly telling another woman that he has already lost his wife. That's exactly what happened in one of the most disturbing true crime cases in modern America. This is the story of Laci Peterson, and the husband whose lies started before anyone even knew she was missing. In 2002, Laci Peterson seemed to have the kind of life many people dream about. She lived in Modesto, California with her husband, Scott Peterson. They had been married for 5 years and were expecting their first child, a baby boy they planned to name Connor. Friends described Laci as warm, friendly, and excited about becoming a mother. Everything about her life seemed happy and stable. But behind the scenes, something wasn't right. Scott Peterson had been hiding a secret. On the morning of December 24, 2002, Scott told police he left the house around 9:30 in the morning. According to him, Laci stayed home, watching television, while he went fishing alone at the Barkley Marina, about 90 miles away from their home. At first, nothing seemed unusual, but later that day, a neighbor noticed something strange. The Petersons' dog was wandering outside alone, still wearing its leash. The neighbor brought the dog back to the yard, assuming Laci would come out soon. But she never did. When Scott returned home later that afternoon, he claimed he noticed Laci was missing. Soon after, police were contacted. At first, investigators treated the situation as a missing person case. But as the hours turned into days, the case began to attract national attention. Hundreds of volunteers joined search efforts. Friends and family handed out flyers. People across the country began following the story. Everyone hoped Laci would be found safe, but investigators were starting to notice something unusual about Scott, while everyone else appeared desperate and worried. Scott seemed strangely calm. Some people described his behavior as distant, and then investigators received a phone call that completely changed the direction of the case. The call came from a woman named Amber Frey. She told police she had been dating Scott Peterson. The problem was, she had no idea he was married. When Amber saw Scott on the news connected to the disappearance of his pregnant wife, she was shocked. But what disturbed investigators even more was something Scott had told her weeks earlier. Scott had told Amber that he had already lost his wife. He even said that the upcoming Christmas would be his first holiday without her. There was just one problem. When he said that, Laci Peterson hadn't even disappeared yet. Investigators immediately realized how serious this information was. They asked Amber Frey if she would be willing to help them. Their plan was risky. They wanted her to continue talking to Scott and secretly record their conversations. Amber agreed. Over the next several weeks, she had multiple phone calls with Scott, while investigators listened in. During those conversations, Scott continued pretending everything was normal. He flirted with Amber, he joked with her, and he spoke about future plans, all while search teams were still desperately looking for his missing pregnant wife. To investigators, his behavior raised more and more suspicion, but they still needed evidence. Months passed, and the search for Laci continued. Then, in April 2003, something shocking happened. Human remains were discovered along the shoreline of the San Francisco Bay. The discovery immediately caught investigators' attention. This location was extremely important, because it was the same area where Scott claimed he had gone fishing the day Laci disappeared. Soon after forensic testing was completed, authorities confirmed the heartbreaking truth. The remains belonged to Laci Peterson and her unborn son, Connor. What began as a missing person investigation was now officially a homicide case, and all attention turned directly toward Scott Peterson. Just days later, police moved in to arrest him. But what investigators discovered during the arrest made the situation even more suspicious. Scott had dyed his hair blonde. He had thousands of dollars in cash with him. He also had multiple cell phones and camping equipment. Even more concerning, he was located only a short distance from the Mexican border. To investigators, it looked like someone preparing to disappear. Scott Peterson insisted he was innocent, but prosecutors believed the evidence told a very different story. The trial began in 2004 and quickly became one of the most widely followed court cases in the United States. Prosecutors argued that Scott Peterson murdered his wife to escape the responsibilities of marriage and fatherhood. They pointed to his secret affair, his suspicious behavior, and the location where the bodies were discovered. The defense argued that the case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that Scott had been unfairly judged by the public. After months of testimony and intense media coverage, the jury reached its decision. Scott Peterson was found guilty of the first-degree murder of Laci Peterson and the second-degree murder of their unborn son. The case shocked the nation, not only because of the crime itself, but because of the deception that surrounded it. For many people, the most disturbing part of the story wasn't just what happened. It was the realization that someone living what appeared to be a normal life could be hiding something so dark. Even today, The case continues to raise an unsettling question. How well do we truly know the people closest to us?